Welcome to ShiftWatch. I'm your host, Starbuck. In this episode, the Seven Hermetic Principles were squarely placed in my path due to some others who stumbled over them and asked if I knew about them. I found what I believe, aside from reading the entire Kybalion, to be a source of help to once again bind science and metaphysics together in a way that is understandably meaningful to others. Bruce Lipton sums up the principles for us, and I chose the section having to do with vibration as it's been my prevailing thinking for some time now. I promise, spending the 24 minutes to listen to Bruce's entire presentation will put the whole thoughts become things into scientific perspective for you, if you still need further evidence of this fact. Next, the Earthmaster has an update of elevating earthquake activity along the west coast of the United States from Washington State southward toward Hollywood, California. Another heightening area of concern as seismic activity following solar storms is continuing and leading us to the event. Then, Helena Blavatsky's prophecies come to mind as more Akashic records are released, and how they parallel our current reality. I was drawn to her descriptions of the 6 root races and the roles they played and are playing out. See what you think. And finally, the Solarians, ascension mandates, including the violet flame, the golden Taya allotments for the LP40, light principle 40, light encoded areas with their ascension and their transfer from Nephilim to Solarian guardianship. Maya provides this information from a Thoth channeling on or around 1995 that she had stored in her archive.
There's a repetition in the structure from as above to below, not a New Age idea, but a fundamental principle and fractal geometry. Now, an interesting point about it is, as far as we know, fractal geometry came into awareness in the 1980s with Mandelbrot. Well, obviously, 5,000 years ago, they obviously knew it as well, which then says, how smart are we, or how smart were the people that gave rise to us? This is an important part for looking at the nature of the Hermetic principles. The principle of vibration is so interesting because everything in the universe is moving all the time. It's always vibrating and moving. When quantum physics first looked at the atom, as the earlier physicists, they saw the physical structures of protons, neutrons, and electrons. But as they started to take it apart, they found out at the very bottom, there wasn't anything physical. It was a vortex of energy. You can visualize energy by taking a rock and dropping it into a pond. Well, the energy of the rock as it hits the water is translated into the pond water. What is the result? Ripples that radiate out, ripples and ripples radiating out. That is the shape of energy. The energy is a force who is shaping matter. It's the energy underneath the water. It's continuously vibrating. Waves and ripples come out of atoms. Atoms are spinning vortexes of energy, and in the process, they make waves, and these ripples go out into space. Everything in the known universe in regard to the physical experience is based on atoms, and all atoms are energy vortices with ripples that radiate out. Atoms are nano tornadoes. Well, let's consider then the real tornado. It's a spinning vortex of energy. Try and drive your car through a tornado. As you get to the tornado, the force field of that vibration can actually lift up your car and throw it away. Vortices of energies, nano tornadoes, have force fields to them. I can see a tornado. It's got all the debris and the dirt and the dust that's been picked up by the windstorm and thrown all around. If you take the dirt and dust out of the tornado, it's still an energy force field, even though now you can't see it. An energy force is invisible, but you can feel it because it will push on you, you push on it. That feels physical. As far as we know, The ancient people weren't talking quantum physics, but they obviously knew quantum physics because they understood the nature of the vibration. Even though they live in a world like we live in the world that appears to be physical, this ancient wisdom was built into the Hermetic Principles. There was a point where people said, there's something more than the physical realm. And they started to look at healing in a different way. They started to recognize that you could heal with energy. You could heal with consciousness. The people started to say, yeah, but that's the invisible part. The material realm started to transition back into what? That there's a spiritual realm that we've left out of the story. So if you understand, we pull back and look at the flow. The flow is what? A sine wave. And a sine wave shows us there's an up and a down and an up and a down. But the sine wave is the example of rhythm, that you put both of them together and then you can make a vibration that goes up and down like that. So again, the whole principle is coming back at this point. So the point of cause and effect is actions cause reactions. But reactions then alter the original cause of the first action. So it doesn't have one cycle, it's repetitious the whole time. Everything is action, reaction, action, reactions. If you want to understand how the universe, you see something moving, you automatically know there must have been something that pushed it in the first place to move. So the basic understanding of cause and effect, action, reaction is built into our world of view and our world understanding. Well, sometimes this might be applied misdirectly. A scientist by the name of Michael Denton started to look at the universe and started to recognize that the waves of interaction of all the things in the universe lead to a cause of a creation. Well, the idea that there is a creation led some people to say, well, if there's a creation, there's a creator. And, well, what's God to a lot of people? The energy. The universe, everything that is. But they make that energy into a person. The white bearded guy up in the sky is the physical creator. I say, no, but perceiving that there's a creation, they automatically, with the idea of cause and effect, use that principle to say, well, there must be a cause. So what we're really beginning to understand in the world of quantum physics is that everything is energy. Well, energies interact with energies. A thought is a creative energy. You can create a thought, but that thought being an energy can alter the physical reality of yourself even. So your thoughts being broadcast are a cause, but the energy of the thought engages with the energy of the atoms of your body and are manifest as an experience, cause and effect. That just simplifies why the biology belief is so important, because your consciousness is a cause that results in an effect as perceived in your body.
Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a start of the work week. Monday is upon us. Dreaded Monday. Some people like that Monday. All right. It is March 3rd, 2025, 10:04 a.m. California time. Latest activity at 1.6 there across California. Notice a bunch of movement here across the area of the West Coast recently in the last 24 hours, including some larger movement outside of Seattle north here. Overall, it's quite an active trend of elevated seismic events taking place out here. Nothing in terms of, the big one, but definitely noticing a decent uptick of earthquake activity out here. Of course, all started off last night with a 3.9 earthquake here in the Hollywood area. Greater Los Angeles area felt that earthquake quite nicely. 3.9. Now, what I find interesting here is that this earthquake has not been reviewed yet. So I don't know what's going on there with the review status procedure, but it is Monday morning. It's not a holiday. I should have had time now to review that earthquake. Could be larger, could be smaller. That's what the human review process is for, because sometimes the computer preliminary data puts it out. It could be lower or higher than the actual magnitude. But as you can see, that earthquake shaking the area down there across Los Angeles, even felt up in Palmdale, Lancaster area for a 3.9. A lot of folks there replying on the video. I appreciate the comments. That earthquake looks like it struck on the an unnamed fault here. It's actually listed on the map. Unnamed possible fault in North Hollywood. Now, that earthquake may have just confirmed the actual presence of a fault system there. Because if they were unsure if it's even a fault or not, well, now it is. A 3.9. It looks like a little bit of aftershock sequences here early this morning in the 1 range, a little bit further south towards the northern side here, the hills. Also some activity for further down south here. A couple smaller earthquakes roughly around that same time period. And that tells me right here, it's not just a confined pressure event taking place. It's the entire West Coast out here. If we include all this movement across Southern California, Northern California up here, all the elevated activity in Washington recently around the Seattle fault. This one here is on the Devil's, what's it called there? The Devil's Mountain Fault. We'll check that out here in just a little bit, but we'll cover the California activity first, since that was a notable earthquake.
We will now decode the lost letters of Helena Blavatsky and uncover her final warning to humanity. What did she see that others couldn't? And what did she want us to know before it was too late? Blavatsky claimed to have access to ancient wisdom, and her writings hinted a future only she could foresee. But why were these messages buried, and what do they reveal about the choices we're making today?
Our age is inferior in wisdom to any other because it professes more visibly every day contempt for truth and justice. Civilization built of shams and appearances is like a green morass over a deadly quagmire.
These words, written in 1889 by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, a woman branded a fraud, hailed as a prophet, and forgotten by history, echo with uncanny urgency today. In an age of artificial intelligence, climate collapse, and algorithmic isolation, her warnings about humanity's spiritual decay feel less like relics of the past and more like a roadmap to our future. In The Secret Doctrine, her 1,500-page magnum opus, she wrote,
Darwin explains the body, but not the soul. True evolution is the awakening of divine consciousness within matter.
She envisioned a universe where atoms and galaxies obeyed the same spiritual laws, a radical idea that later found echoes in quantum physics. The Theosophical Society became a global phenomenon, attracting intellectuals like Thomas Edison, suffragist Annie Besant, and inventor Alexander Graham Bell. Its 3 core principles, universal brotherhood, the study of comparative religion, and the investigation of psychic laws, struck a chord in an age of industrial upheaval. But her greatest contribution was her synthesis of Eastern and Western thought. She introduced concepts like karma, chakras, and the sevenfold nature of the soul to Western audiences decades before yoga became mainstream. In The Voice of the Silence, a poetic guide for spiritual seekers, she wrote,
The mind is the slayer of the real. Let the disciple slay the slayer.
What exactly did Blavatsky warn humanity about, and how do her dire predictions align with today's crises? We'll decode her prophecies, from environmental collapse to the rise of soulless technology, and the controversial 6th root race she believed would save us.
The West worships its machines, but starves its soul.
These words, written by Blavatsky in an 1886 letter to her colleague A.P. Sinnett, cut to the heart of her darkest warnings. For Blavatsky, the Industrial Revolution wasn't just a technological leap, it was a spiritual catastrophe. She watched as factories spew smoke over London, as railroads carved through sacred lands in India, and as science reduced the cosmos to atoms and void. In The Secret Doctrine, she declared,
Materialism is the true original sin. a veil that blinds humanity to its divine nature.
But Blavatsky's critique went deeper. She saw materialism as a moral failing, a rejection of humanity's duty to evolve spiritually. In Lucifer magazine, a publication she co-founded and provocatively named after the Lightbringer, she wrote,
Rivers will choke on the filth of greed, forests will crumble to feed furnaces, and the air itself will carry the stench of decay. This is the karma of a civilization that worships profit over life.
Blavatsky's predictions eerily mirror today's climate crisis. She warned of plagues born from poisoned soil and skies darkened by human arrogance, framing ecological collapse as the inevitable result of humanity's disconnect from nature. In The Secret Doctrine, she called Earth a living entity, writing,
To wound her is to wound the divine. The karma of ecocide will haunt humanity for eons.
Her warnings even extended to technology. Long before the emergence of Silicon Valley, she foresaw a plague of artificial minds. In an 1888 essay, she wrote,
Man will create machines that think but lack compassion. These mechanical demons will enslave their creators, for they know nothing of love, justice, or mercy.
We can compare this statement to modern fears of technology ethics, such as Yuval Noah Harari's caution that advanced algorithms might start to hack human souls. So what is Blavatsky's solution to this ordeal? A return to sacred science, an ancient fusion of spirituality and empiricism. She argued that pre-modern cultures, from Vedic India to Egyptian mystery schools, understood nature's laws as both physical and metaphysical. In The Secret Doctrine, she wrote,
The atom in the galaxy obeyed the same divine geometry. To split them into a science and faith is to blindfold the seeker of truth.
Blavatsky's most radical and controversial idea was humanity's evolution through 7 root races, each representing a leap in consciousness. In The Secret Doctrine, Volume 2, she described these races not as biological categories, but as stages of spiritual awakening. The first root race, etheric beings of pure energy, residing in the imperishable sacred land. The second root race, Hyperborean beings inhabiting a lost Arctic continent. The third root race, the Lemurians, who developed physical bodies and primal language. The fourth root race, the Atlanteans, masters of psychic power and advanced technology. The fifth root race, modern humans, dominated by intellect and materialism. But it was the sixth root race that consumed Blavatsky's vision. She described it as an age of intuition, where humans transcend dogma and materialism. In The Secret Doctrine, she wrote,
They will hear the soul's voice as clearly as we now hear their bodies. Dogma will perish, direct knowing will reign.
This new humanity, she claimed, would emerge after a period of global crisis, a purification by fire and water. She prophesied a continent rising in the Pacific, a new Atlantis, where science and mysticism merge. While this seems fantastical, parallels exist in modern movements like transhumanism, which seeks to merge humans with technology, and the singularity, a predicted era of machine superintelligence. Blavatsky's vision even hinted at collective telepathy. In The Key to Theosophy, she wrote,
Words will grow obsolete. Thought will flash mind to mind, untainted by lies or ego.
We can carefully compare this to today's neural interfaces. It's almost like Elon Musk's Neuralink, which aims to connect brains to computers. Central to this evolution was her concept of karma and cyclical time. Unlike linear views of history, Blavatsky saw time as a spiral, a series of ascending cycles where humanity confronts the same lessons until it learns. She warned that the fifth root race's obsession with materialism would trigger a karmic reckoning. Wars, ecological collapse, and societal fragmentation. Only then, she argued, would humanity choose to evolve.
From a compilation of my previously written material beginning as early as the 1970s. The Golden Taya allotments are the areas of Earth's surface which will be ascending at the period of time referred to as Light Principle 40 or LP40. According to Thoth, those whom we call the Sunbow clan, also known as the Kachina of the Hopi prophecy, were responsible for these decisions. They were master builders sent from the confederation of stars known as Orion, but primarily they came from the blue star Rigel. This occurred after the first fall of heaven, prior to the end of the Hyperborean epoch, which resulted in the ascension of a portion of Atlantis known as the Holy Isle of Ruta at the final cataclysm that destroyed the remaining continent. The Sunbow was assigned by the Aeneid, Council of Nine Seraphic Intelligences, to determine the present-future consciousness vectors of Earth and assign light ascension matrices for specific sacred land areas under the mandate of the violet flame. It was understood that not all of Earth would be viable for translation at the time of LP40. The regions containing certain light codes were those to be appropriated back to the Metatronic full light spiral at the time of ascension. The rest of the Earth would be given up to the entropy of the fallen elements. There was an archangelic decree given that a mandate should be established for this return to grace which the universes were moving through. You must understand that the Earth's plight is of an inner design as part of a greater universal return home. The universal mandate is that of the violet flame. The Earth's role is given several sub-mandates under the violet flame. One of these mandates is the Golden Taya, which concerns the allotment of certain light-encoded areas for the LP40 ascension. The first step in this process involves their transfer from Nephilimic guardianship to Solarian guardianship under the authority of the Wheels of Fire, containing various Merkaba groups, such as Chariot of the Sun. Now, Chariot of the Sun is Thoth's Merkaba. They work, I might say, under them, under his authority, and their souls involved in that Merkaba. Thoth uses the word Nephilim in a broader context than just one tribe of human-like beings. The Nephilim are basically those who originally broke with the Humanity Pact among equilibriant worlds. So they are human-like, they have human genetics, but they are not what he considers star kindred because they do not conform to that code. In other words, they march to a different drummer, and that drumming is outside the spiritual code of the greater humanity. The greater spiritual Solarius is the third eye of the source of all things. All creation is composed of rays from the Solarius throughout all the three ultra-universes and many cosmic universes within all dimensions and interdimensions in every plane of thought, reason, or comprehension. Now, the Solarians represent the many stellar races, basically what we would call, we would relate to as human, as compared to angelic or Davic souls. Their programs would include generating avatars, messiahs, religions, nations, and culture frames across time. I created a video on the new avatars and Solarians, and I will put a link to that video in the information box below. At the time of the Earth's creation, it was known that the fallen lords, including the incarnating Nephilim, would enter the Earth's spectrum and claim guardianship over the basest elemental state. This was allowed by the God Source as part of a larger process designed to create separation in order to redesign the fragments of self back into unity. One might even call this karma, if you were looking at it in a very dimensional way. The higher regions, including the Metatronic Gate, would remain with the guardianship of the Solarians. It was determined within the sub-mandate of the Golden Taya guardianship that even the elemental substance known as your world, meaning this planet, would be turned over to the Solarians prior to LP40 ascension. This must be accomplished in order for these Golden Taya areas to ascend through the Metatronic Gate at that time. We are now in that time when the Solarians, which includes us, those who are spiritually aware, maybe not perfect, but we have our awareness and our dedication. So those of us and the star kindred and inner earth kindred, the Solarian energy that originally came through this vessel of light and is gathering other star kindred beings, we now are in a position to emancipate the lower frequencies and hold the torch high for our future world system. To continue with Thoth, the Golden Taya are the major ascension centers of the planet. These are the areas that are necessary to come with us in energetic coding in order to create the new Earth star of World System 2. It is going to be designed from that template. And of course, we will be carrying the planetary genius from the center of the Earth, another topic. Now, Thoth has told me that we will be on these Golden Taya land areas at the time that we go through the process of Light Principle 40, the ascension process, the final part of it. This doesn't mean that you have to run out and find one. You simply will be there. If your frequency is, you're determining your destiny by your frequency, then you will be in one of these Golden Taya areas. Some of these Tayas are very small, a few acres wide maybe. Most of them are much larger, but there are situations, Thoth has told me, where some particular land area might be, 25 acres in the midst of nothing else is going for miles and miles. And so that little piece would be part of it. So, and then there are much bigger pieces as well. So it's not about worrying about, oh my gosh, how am I going to find a Golden Taya so I can ascend? It's like part of your program of light will place you there. It all comes down to your inner decision to be a part of this process, not because of you heard Thoth talk about it or using this language. This comes from the inner being. As I said, the dairy farmers and the high execs, or anybody who is part of the spiritual condition of feeling this in frequency, not a religion, not a belief system, will be where they need to be at that time. But they need to make the right decisions along the way. That means being open to receiving that frequency in various modalities.